Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Oxnard City Council Public Works and Transportation Committee meeting for April 26th. There is a statement that we're going to give or a video we're going to play with respect to, we're not going to do it? Okay. Okay. You may participate in the meeting in various ways, and they're on the agenda. We're not going to show the video, so attending the meeting in location listed above at City Council. We'll start with the roll call, posting of the agenda, and the flag salute, please.
Member Zaragoza,
Here.
Member Lopez,
Here.
Chair Perillo.
Here.
The agenda for this meeting was posted on the City Hall bulletin board on April 19th, 2022.
Mr. Nguyen, would you lead us in the flag salute?
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments for the items not on the agenda?
We do not have any public speakers. Thank you, Chair.
We're waiting 3 minutes, correct?
No, we
Do
don't.
not do that anymore? Okay, it's all done? Okay. All right. Starting with the consent agenda, City Clerk Department, subject to approval of the minutes, recommendation to the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve the minutes of April 12th, 2022, regular meeting as presented. Do we have any errors, corrections, submissions, remissions, or suggestions from the committee?
If there's no changes or issues with the minutes, I would move a motion to accept and recommend approval.
Second.
Lopez, Zaragoza, please vote.
Thank you. Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to reports. D1, Public Works Department. Subject agreement A-8459 with Horn LLP for California Low-Income Household Water and Assistance Programs. The recommendations, two-part recommendation. The recommendation of the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommends that the City Council, number one, receive and file a report about the California Low-Income Household Water Assistance Program, LIHWAP, and number two, authorize the Public Works Director to execute an agreement A-8459 with Horn LLP to enroll in this financial assistance program in substantial conformance with the attached template, subject to the final approval of the city attorney for any final modifications. There is a video presentation, but due to the issues with Measure M, it is not available. Do we have any comments from the public on this matter, Madam Clerk?
No public speakers.
Okay. Are there any concerns or questions or discussion by the committee members?
Mr. Chair, to Michael, this is not affiliated with the one we just, the assistance to low-income residents, right?
Good evening, Mayor and committee members. Michael Wolf, Public Works Director. That's correct, Mr. Mayor. This is not affiliated with that. It's a separate
Yeah.
process and system. There are some overlaps in terms of eligibility, but it's a separate funding source.
So then this is from the CSD, the California Department of Community Services. And why are they doing that, Michael? What's reason behind that?
Well, it's my understanding that the funding sources that were provided from a state level are available for this. And so this is the group that the state has decided is the governances of this. They actually give it to a third party. So if you notice in the recommendation, it's actually going us to sign an agreement with a third party. So they have a third party vendor, a local vendor that we would then contract with. But this is the state's direction for this department of the state to oversee this.
So I think that one of the things is the eligibility has to be with the individuals that are 60% below the state medium income, which is very significant to help those individuals that need that help. Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All righty. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wolf. And if we can maybe back up just a second, if you could summarize what this program is for anyone who may not have seen the presentation by Mr. Maldonado.
Certainly. So this is a utility assistance program through the state, again, through a local third party that we would contract with. But basically, similar to some of the other arrearages programs that we've seen, where if you have a delinquency on your utility bills, water and wastewater, and you meet the eligibility requirements as stated, mostly due to the income level, you would be eligible for a one-time up to $2,000 for that sort of back pay, if you will, not back pay, but be able to address those negative balances on your account.
And is that one time per calendar year or one time as long as this program is funded? Do you have any?
Yeah, so I'll bring up Abraham Maldonado. I believe it's per account, but not one time, like you can only ask for it once. But Abraham, do you have an answer to that question? One time only? Okay, so it's one time only up to $2,000.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Maldonado, can you come up? Because I have a question. I apologize. I didn't get it to you earlier. With respect to the verification of income in homes, we're finding that there are a lot of people that work under the table. They're paid out in cash. How do we verify that there's no fraud in this program?
Unfortunately, the city is not responsible for reviewing any documents. The LSP, the local service provider, will be handling all the paperwork and verifying all the documents before a payment is sent to the city.
Do we have any expectations that they check to see if there is some fraud of some kind?
Yes, well, they will have to do reporting to the state where everything is being monitored and audited.
And I appreciate that. So if we do find that there is something wrong and they did not find out, who's going to be responsible?
It would be on the
Warren or the
LSP,
city?
on the LSP, not, it wouldn't be the city. We wouldn't be reliable.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
And Mr. Chair, I understand, Maldonado, that's no cost to the city, this program, right?
Correct, zero cost.
Which I think is important for the public to understand that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Do we have any other questions or concerns?
No, none.
If there's no further questions or comments, I would move approval of this.
I'll second it.
Mhm.
Go ahead and vote, please.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. The next item, number 2, Public Works Department, subject amend purchase order number 8552 with Site One Landscape Supply LLC for citywide irrigation parts and supplies. Recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the purchasing agent to amend purchase order number 8552 with Site One Landscape Supply for a not to exceed amount of $1 million through February 27th, 2025 for the purchase of irrigation parts and supplies. Do we have any parties that have called in for public comment, Madam Clerk?
No public speakers. Thank you, Chair Perrello.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or concerns?
Yeah, Michael, my understanding, this is a 3-year contract. And I think in your report, you also mentioned that it's just not for parks, but for other departments that could possibly use the supplies. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So this is a multi-year contract and it's not just specifically to parks. Obviously have medians and other areas that are facilities that could have access to this contract. As you know, we'll be talking a lot about the drought coming soon.
I was gonna,
And so this is a good opportunity, as we talked about before, for us to be good stewards of the same resource. And so we want to make sure we have the ability to make those repairs as quickly as and efficiently as possible. So this is able to cover that through multiple divisions, but the main focus will be with the parks.
and Michael and Mr. Chair, I understand that Metropolitan today announced that we're going to stage 3 water, and consequently, what effect is going to have on the irrigation of our landscaping and so forth?
There's certainly a lot of changes that are happening today and tomorrow because
Mhm.
Cayugas will be hearing very similar recommendations from staff. So we are moving forward, listening to those two regional agencies and then be coming forward to council with a recommendation for where we should be going. As a reminder, we are in stage 2 and have been for a while. So we'll be making a recommendation just based on the input that we get from those two local agencies on the 17th. But yes, Met did make a big decision today about moving forward on some drought restrictions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mhm.
I would just like to say that in the past few days, there have been some irrigation leaks that have been made aware of to me. And I want to compliment the water department. They've jumped on it right away and taken care of it. With respect to this particular item in the presentation, and I appreciated the presentation, but we can't see it because of Measure M. This is up to 1 million, not necessarily we're going to spend $1 million. And I appreciated the way that it was going to be interdepartmental. It's not going to be required to go out for bids. Is there going to be a central warehouse, or there will be ability to just make a phone call and have a part delivered or parts picked up? How's the actual mechanics on that going to work?
Let me bring up Mr. Howlett. I think we're doing task orders for this. Is that a typical process? So we'll do task order driven processes. So it'll be ran through your team. Steve's team will be kind of the central hub for that. So we're not asking folks to go directly and pick up parts. This is actually meaning there'll be a central hub for that, but it's not like a warehouse area. So it'll be done through task orders. And as we track that, there'll be a tracking so we don't go above the $1 million. And so that's that process. It'll be issued task orders. So they write the scope of work through the approval process of the checks and balances of their division manager or myself will approve that. And then they'll go get the parts and have the equipment available.
In any area of the city where we have contract services for the landscaping, will they be able to make a task order to get parts? And if there is any more explanation to give, we're going pretty fast at this meeting, so maybe we could tell a little bit more to the public without violating the holy rules here.
Yes, thank you, Chair Perrello. In this case, what a good option would be and what this purchase order allows us to do is if a contractor out in the field says we need specific or certain parts, city staff can go acquire those parts and give them to the contractor. Normally, contractors who do landscape work, irrigation repairs and such, any parts that are received have a 15% markup. So when we're doing $1 million, if we do, I don't think we'll ever hit $1 million, but it gives us the umbrella. But say we did do $1 million, that's 15% markup that would go if we did it all through contractors. So it just gives us an option to save money and get the parts on behalf of the contractors. But no, the contractors will not be able to get their own task order and go pick it up themselves. It'll be up to staff because we will be overseeing the money and the purchases that this is used for. Because we also want to be sure that anything that's purchased does not end up in the contractor's truck on another job.
The extra time it took to come up, and I appreciate it. This is not sarcastic. That little bit of information that you've given, the 15% markup, that it doesn't walk away and do somebody else's job, is very good for the residents of Oxnard to hear that we have people in the city of Oxnard taking care of the city of Oxnard's monies. Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other questions?
Only I'd like to share, that Michael and Steve, this is really going to take care of quite a few of the concerns that we hear about the sprinklers not working and something's broken and where are we and so forth. So I think this is going to really help us tremendously, and good work for that too, by the way.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. As you know, there's a lot of work that needs to get done. This is a good step forward to that.
Yeah, thank you. Move approval, Mr.
I'll second it.
Mhm.
Please. I'm sorry. City manager would like to talk. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was just politely
It's got
waiting.
all the lights. It's like I'm flying a plane and I don't know how to get off the
Okay.
ground here.
Remember last time I waited for 4 meetings to get called on. I just want to point out that the couple things. So the staff report has a great presentation. So for those who didn't view the video, which is basically almost everyone, I would refer you, if you're interested or curious, to review the video or the actual staff report in the presentation. There's some good graphics and photos in there that really make it obvious. But I wanted to state the $1 million over 3 years for an ordinary homeowner or resident may seem like a large number to repair sprinklers, but a couple things to point out is understanding how much of this infrastructure is across the entire city. And also, this is essentially the cost it would take for over time proper maintenance. The issue now is because we're playing catch up, we're getting through as fast and as much as we can. So we're spending a lot in a shorter amount of time. But at some point, we'll get to a proper maintenance routine / cycle, and you won't see this number in 1 year. Just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
That's important to realize, ladies and gentlemen, the significance of what had happened in past decades with respect to lack of maintenance, because the city got behind the 8 ball for various reasons and they didn't take care of business. If you don't take care of your car, your house, or your body, there will come a day of reckoning, and we're working our way through that. Thank you, City Manager, for bringing it up.
So we voted?
Yes, please go ahead and vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
And the last item, the second to the last item on the agenda, Public Works Department, 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal year.
No, 7th Amendment. This is VRSD.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're hurting, that's why.
Yeah. That's not it.
No, he's
That's
got
not
a
it.
backache that's hurting him.
The third item, Public Works, thank you, Councilmember Vianney Lopez and Mayor John Zaragoza. The number 3, Public Works Department, subjects, approve 7th Amendment to Agreement 7167-15-CM with Ventura Regional Sanitation District. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize the mayor to execute a 7th Amendment to Agreement 7167-15-CM with Ventura Regional Sanitation District, VRSD, in the amount of $431,441.09 for a not to exceed total amount of $1,150,000, and to extend the contract from June 30th, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, with the option to exercise 2 one-year extensions through June 30th, 2025 for monitoring and reporting on the closed Santa Clara landfill. Again, there is a presentation, but due to Measure M, we can't see the presentation. I need to ask the city attorney. I serve on the Ventura Regional Sanitation District Board. I don't believe that'll conflict me, but if it does, I'll step aside.
No, I'm not aware of any conflict with me.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers on this?
Chair Perrello, we do not have any public speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is a mandated item that when we took responsibility for the landfill in 2002, it's a state and federal mandate that we continue monitoring the landfill, and there was a lease that was put together by the city and VRSD for a couple of parcels. So it's something that we need to monitor, and we just have the obligation to do so.
And the mayor is 100% right. This is an example. A lot of people don't think about this, myself included sometimes. There is nothing that you handle, use, and then dispose of that actually ever goes away. This is something that has to be taken care of. There's a responsibility, and it's a health, safety, and welfare issue with this particular item. I support this. There are decisions that were made in the past. You cannot go back. There's no time machine right here. There are decisions that were made in the past. We're responsible, and we honor our responsibilities and looking out for the public health, safety, and welfare of the city and the pocketbook. Because if something goes wrong, the city of Oxnard is on the hook. So I Any
Need a
other
motion to-
comments? I would make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Roll call, vote, please.
Motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Number 4, Public Works Department, 5-year capital improvement program for fiscal year 2022, 2027. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council, 3-part item. Number 1, hold a public hearing to receive public testimony regarding the proposed 2022-2027 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. And number 2, approve and authorize the fiscal year 2022, 2023, and 2023, 2024 projects to be selected from the proposed 2022, 2027 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. And number 3, adopt the 2022, 2027 City of Oxnard 5-year capital improvement program. Again, due to the rigmarole with Measure M, we will not be having a presentation. But ladies and gentlemen, there's a very good presentation put on by our city attorney, Ms. I'm sorry, our city
Tatiana.
chief engeer, not
Tatiana.
Tatiana Aronot, I believe. And I
She's
apologize.
definitely the chief.
Oh, geez, man. And I have not been drinking, I swear. Jesus.
Maybe you need a drink.
Yeah. Do we have any public comments, Madam Clerk?
We do not have any public speakers. Thank you, Chair Perrello.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or,
We'll listen to the presentation.
Is there-
You want to make a presentation? Let me share a
Yeah.
couple of items.
and with that, with the city attorney, is there ability to,
You can ask any questions you'd like of her. and she can
okay,
I
answer
just,
them as-
I just want, Mr. Chair, I want to commend, the excellent presentation, again, this is a 5-year capital improvement that covers from 22 to 27. And also it gives a good overview of the CIPs that we have and the summary of CIP, the projects that have been completed, backing up the projects that are have been completed and the ones for the future, midterm, long-term. And I think it's some of the things that it's a health and safety issues that it preserves asset preservation and also is some new items that we have to take care of, a lot of deferred maintenance that we have to take care of. So I think it's really something that we need to kind of share with the public a bit more because we have, I think some of the things that some of the new projects are let me see, we have to look at parks, we have to look at fire stations, we're looking at new tennis courts, we're looking at playgrounds and park cleanups and sidewalk repairs and et cetera, and et cetera. That's a tremendous amount of work, And I think if I'm not mistaken, if I'm reading this before or after, there's something like $700 million in projects. That's a tremendous amount of money and lots of work that's good for the next 5 years. And one of the things that's going to help us out is you don't have to be coming back and forth. Well, every year you do, for budget purposes. But Mr. Chair, I think it's an excellent program and something that we need to convey to the public more succinctly, if we can. But thank you.
Thank you. And I will follow with the mayor's comments. I definitely commend our staff and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Arnaud. I mean, it was like a 20-some presentation that definitely doesn't do justice to all the work that is being done by staff citywide through all departments. It's very much a coordinated effort throughout the city. And to see what is coming up in the next 5 years, I mean, there's a lot of pages to the document. But what I'm a fan of is highlighting the work that has been accomplished because it's very easy to just focus on the things that aren't working, the areas that need improvement, and we don't as often celebrate the wins and the accomplishments and the hard work of individuals. So thank you to all our city staff who has been working through this, especially with challenges that I think you summarized some of those, Ms. Arnaud. So if you could maybe just briefly share, some of the highlights of the projects that have been completed, I think that would be really great for anyone watching now or after this meeting.
Yeah, it would be my pleasure. So first and foremost, Councilwoman Lopez, you mentioned just the hard work of the staff over various departments, and I was kicking myself because I didn't emphasize this enough in the presentation, but it is a lot of hard work across all of the departments to get all of this work done, from our folks in finance to community development, and obviously here in Public Works. And it's, it's a small but mighty crew, and we're getting a lot of work done out there. Primarily what you guys are seeing out there is the street resurfacing, alley reconstruction. That's thanks to our Measure E dollars primarily. We now have $27 million more through ARPA, those are projects that are getting kickstarted right now and moving forward. I just brought the South Oxnard Aquatic Center design forward last week, so that'll be moving forward as well. In addition to that, we have work happening with replacement of cast iron pipes. We're about to award the reliability improvements at the wastewater treatment plant here in the next month or so. And that's just to summarize a couple of the projects that are happening out there. We did a bunch of sport courts at various parks. We're working on bids to put out for playground replacements throughout the city as well. And so those are just some of the major highlights there. And then that's, I think the mayor mentioned it, right? So we're going to be bringing this back every 2 years with the budget every year, but every 2 years, there'll be a new update for this program. But as of right now, yeah, over the next 5 years, we're anticipating $700 million worth of improvements here in the city of Oxnard. Again, a lot of it thanks to Measure E and the ARPA funds that we have received more recently.
But can I share something else on Mr.?
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I just want to share before I forget, I am getting a lot of compliments on the work that we're doing. Mr. City Manager from Public Works, to the Finance Department, what you're doing with the streets and the alleys. Well, we're going to work on the alleys, but in fact, I made a presentation the other day to the Redwood neighborhood, and they were real concerned about the one alley that they have there, which is, that's going to be next, because we've done your streets now at the alley, but I'm getting a lot of compliments from a lot of people, just the way the city's looking. Having Michael, having the people working out there on the streets, sweeping the streets, looking at the mediums and so forth. I just want to share that because that makes me really, really proud. I got to share that with you because you're doing a good job. And people said, how about my street? I said, we're not there yet, a little bit at a time with a 3-year, program. But as time progresses, we're going to get to your street or your alley or your park. But I just want to share that, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that. It is nice to start hearing at least as many compliments as we hear about complaints. So it's starting to balance out. So in addition to what our chief city engineer has discussed, I do want to point out that under Director Michael Wolf's leadership, we are trying something different this time, which is we're actually going to do a 2-year budget for the CIP. So that they can plan better, and which is not the entire city budget, it's just the CIP portion. So that's something we're doing that's a little bit different, but we will be annually just bringing an update on, just like Councilwoman Lopez asked for tonight, just an update on what's been accomplished. So that's the one thing I want to highlight that's different this year. Thank you.
Good.
Mr. City Manager, for the public that's watching it or will watch it later, please explain what's the big deal between 1-year and 2-year budget. Somebody's going to ask me that and I'll be shooting from my hip.
So with the 2-year budget, you are essentially, when you, hopefully, we will be recommending this come budget time, and hopefully you will agree and approve. You'll be allocating funds for 2 years at a time with respect to the CIP. The remainder of the city budget for now will be an yearly budget. Our goal in the near future, once we complete the software upgrade, the ERP upgrade, that we would actually return to a 2-year budget. So you'd be budgeting 2 years at a time. And there are lots of advantages to doing that, mostly around planning and knowing what to expect.
Very plain English. Can you avoid duplication of steps, avoid waste of time and effort?
Yes. So plain English, it's like giving your kid an allowance for the whole year versus 1 month at a time.
Good point.
Thank you for explaining. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I'd like to add just a couple, because I've done 2-year CIP budgets, and we look at CIP projects not in a 1-year lens because of the time it takes for projects to go from start to finish. And the more opportunity that we have to widen our gaze in terms of our planning, it's much easier for us to efficiently assign staff, define the work, get those phases put together so that we're not kind of starting and stopping and starting and stopping and waiting for the next dollar to come. So from that perspective, we're able to efficiently plan projects that are multi-year projects anyway. We can't finish these projects in 1 year. So that efficiency helps in Ms. Arnaud planning her staff. So that start and stop is not there. So that 2 years gives us a little wider window for that analysis to happen. So that's the most important thing for me, is that every time we have to come to council and get appropriations, it puts a little bit of pause or gap in that process where this doesn't have to have that happen every year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I have a couple of questions for our city chief engineer, Ms. Tatiana Arnaud. In your presentation, which was a very good presentation, and again, I hope the public takes a look at it, you mentioned that you will be going to the planning commission. There will be people asking, why does this need to go to the planning commission? Can you please enlighten us?
Yes, Councilman Perrella, I already took this to the planning commission. So that's typically the step that comes before coming to committee and then subsequently council. And basically their role is to look at every new project that is being added to the CIP for consistency with the general plan as well as the coastal land use plan. That's their only role in that process. And so we have them vet that through before we bring the CIP as a whole here. Now, that doesn't mean that each project individually doesn't need to go through its own CEQA process. That still needs to be done on a project by project basis, but at least with regards to the general plan and the coastal land use plan, we get their buy-in before bringing it forward to you.
Is there any extra training or any extra time that you need to spend with the planning commission to bring them up to speed so they're not getting it blind?
So it's a process just like here. We put together a report and explain what it is, what government code section this is falling under, and then we present it to them. So yes, if you're a new planning commissioner, it'll probably be a little bit of a learning curve, but those that have gone through this process before are pretty used to it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That's my questions. Again, thank you for the presentation. I would just like to make a couple of comments. Oh, go ahead, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you for indulging me. I'd be amiss if I didn't say, having been a city engineer many times and presenting and putting together a CIP, Tatiana's being very modest. This is a very difficult process, and I'd like to commend her and her team. A very heavy task and heavy lift. So she's being modest about not mentioning herself, but certainly this is a great product because of her and her team.
Mr. Wolf, were you ever promoted to chief city engineer in the middle of a council meeting?
I wish I was. I wish I was that good.
I would just like to capitalize on our brilliant Councilwoman Vianney Lopez. She made some comments with respect to how we don't always see the things that are being done. We drive down, go back and forth, like I'm getting here a little late on a smooth street. It wasn't smooth several months ago. And I know how to get here quicker than others, but if I take a detoured route, I'll find some of the streets that I don't go on. They're smooth too, and they weren't smooth several months ago. There's a lot of things that have been going on. I can only speak for myself as a councilman, and I'm going to use some very blunt language. Oftentimes, you only hear from pains in the ass. That's the oftentimes, those are the ones you hear from. And it's the same people, time after time after time. And they have a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. There will come a day when those horses do get on those smooth streets and have to realize that Public Works in the city of Oxnard has come a long way. They got a ways to go, but this has been a big earth change in the city of Oxnard. Thank you all very much.
I'm sick of the motion.
Okay, do we have any more discussion? Or
I know, again, you said it very well, and we need to commend, our staff for all the good work they're doing. And by the way, I did see where the planning commission did approve, the CIP for them that coincided with the general plan. Good work.
Thank you.
Want to make a motion?
I will move approval of the.
I'll second that.
CIP.
Vote, please.
Motion passes 3-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam City Clerk. Okay, we get to the last part. Are there any recommendations for things of future on the agenda? And council members, I tell you, I have one that I want to bring up, and does anybody have anything else they want to bring up?
No.
Okay. There is more development going into the intersection of Woolley Road and Harbor Boulevard. And there is a unique setup coming from Oxnard Shores on Woolley Road, coming to cross Oxnard Boulevard and go east on Woolley Road. And there's opportunities, multiple opportunities to have an auto accident because there is signage. It's not real clear. Don't follow the lights, follow the lights. Don't cross this line, don't cross that line. I'd like to put somebody in our Public Works Department in touch with the people that are having a lot of concerns and have suggestions. I think their suggestions are better than mine. I don't live there, but I have been aware that if you don't pay real close attention, specifically on weekends, when we have a lot of people from out of town come down here, you could get in a real hell of an accident. And I'm being asked to look for how many serious accidents between Fifth Street and Channel Islands Boulevard on Harbor Boulevard. I haven't made a request for that, but that's where these groups are going. They want to know if there's a possibility for any improvement, maybe simply with signage. That's the only request I have. Okay, and with regard to that, again, as the mayor mentioned, there's going to be some big changes with water. We're going to be having some information coming forward. And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.